Robert, I want to start with you. Let's go inside the White House. We have to split it up. I want to go through how the book is being received, because I myself, just last night, was speaking to people inside the White House who are saying, holy cow, this book, the spirit of it, maybe not every word, but I spoke to someone who said 90% of this thing is true. Now, the president, he certainly has a different view. You take me inside your White House.
Stephanie, I was hearing many stories over the past 24 hours from sources close to the president, and they say you have to understand the context, Costa, about how this all came about. President's elected last year. Everyone's somewhat shocked about this development, and Wolff's there and says, I'm going to try to chronicle the transition, maybe the first 100 days of the administration. They feel like they're in a hostile environment. He seems friendly to them. They grant him access during the transition, and he just kind of hangs around, and he keeps writing and talking to people. And as they get more in a bunker mentality throughout 2017, Wolff is still there talking to many people, developing relationships of trust with some of these sources. And then this book project just keeps going. And as it sits on a shelf in their mind, they don't realize it's a ticking time bomb politically. But that's what happened, according to people close to the president.
You got to know the context, Costa. I really like that. All right, Tim, I want to replay a piece of the interview that stuck out to me when Michael Wolff was talking about Jared and Ivanka. Listen.
Certainly, Jared and Ivanka, in their current situation, which is in a deep legal quagmire, are putting everything on the president. Not us. It's him.
Now, I mentioned yesterday I read the book because 2 nights ago no one knows who fed my children or put them to bed, because you cannot put this book down. But talk about, yes, we know Jared and Ivanka are in a legal quagmire. They're professionals at distancing themselves. Are they distancing themselves from the president here?
I would find it very hard to believe at the end of the day that Ivanka Trump is going to distance herself from her father. That just does not ring true to me.
I'm with you there.
I think the Trumps are clannish. I think they've always stuck together. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the day if Jared Kushner tried to distance himself from his father-in-law. And they both may need to distance themselves from each other, because Jared Kushner could be in a lot of trouble.
You know why? I think I agree with everything you said about Ivanka. We have to remember with Jared, when his father went to jail, and that was a very salacious case, all of the parts of it.
The setup, the prostitute, the blackmail. Yes.
Right, against his brother-in-law.
Jared's father.
The nasty politics of it all.
Right, it was terrible. Jared never moved an inch away from his father and continued.
Moved closer.
And visited him on a regular basis in prison. So I think Jared has that same kind of, it's about the family first.
Right. I think the difference there is that Ivanka isn't exposed to the same kind of legal problems with Mueller that Jared is.
Well, they may have to distance each other.
That's
I agree
right.
with that.
Legally.
Right, but I don't think he'll distance from his father-in-law.
Personally.
Yeah, because I think that'll be a strategic move, not an emotional.
Well, it could get complicated, though, because if we're talking about money laundering, and if we're talking about Kushner company money laundering and Trump family money laundering, which family is Jared Kushner going to side with?
And Jared using his position during the transition to seek favors, possibly from Chinese or Russian financiers, to bail out a failing building on Fifth Avenue.
666 Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
Right. Jared has skin in the game financially there. And one of the issues that Mueller is going to look at are quid pro quos. Did the Trump team exchange favors like lifting sanctions in exchange for financial help?
I'm telling you, if you wrote this in a movie script, Hollywood would throw it out, because it's so twisted. It's so absurd, right, to have this many things. Say no one would believe this. But here it is, the truth right now in 2018 in America.
Okay, well, I believe it. Bob Costa, take me back inside the White House, because Wolff quoted, so it's not just Bannon, he quoted a string of insults that he says came from members of the inner circle. I'm talking Mnuchin, Reince, Cohn, McMaster. Last year, we were all aghast that it was just Rex Tillerson calling the president a moron. But now you've got Steve Mnuchin, a guy who every single time he's on TV performs what we call the full Mnuchin. He has said President Trump has near perfect genes. How do they go back to the morning meeting with President Trump once the president sees all these quotes, including moron, dope, idiot, dum-dum?
We're going to have to, as reporters, go back and check some of these quotes. But it's a complicated process, because much of this book is done not on the record, some of it is, but on the reporting way of deep background. And so quotes are attributed to people but sourced in an anonymous way. At this kind of book, that's how it seems to be done these days. And so it's hard to pinpoint a quote on people, but a lot of these quotes are attributed verbatim. That's going to complicate people's political status within the administration. We've seen some quotes attributed to Katie Walsh, one of the political advisors, already caused some discussion inside the White House about her role. She denies saying those sorts of things. And I think this kind of debate about what was really said, was Wolff taking things and spinning them, or are they totally accurate? This is going to be a deliberation that continues and has real cost for a White House that's trying to stabilize itself.
Then where's the burden of proof? Tim, if Michael Wolff ends up having hours and hours of tapes, whether or not they were authorized, I mean, the president is simply saying this book was filled with lies.
Well, the one thing that is indisputable here is that Steve Bannon has not disavowed any of the quotes attributed to him, and Michael Wolff says he has recordings of those quotes. All of the other sort of shenanigans inside that book, whether all of them are correctly reported, Michael Wolff's methods, are all at issue. But one of the larger things going on here, and why it rings true, is that this confirms a lot of the reporting that institutions like the Washington Post and NBC and the New York Times and Bloomberg have been doing over the last year. We know that this is an apocalyptically inept White House. And we know that it's a cult of personality around Trump. He is a 7-year-old grown old. And everything that you're seeing in this narrative confirms a lot of other reporting that's already been out there.
Joe Scarborough said the same thing. Joe Scarborough said, this is information that we've all heard for months and months on Deep Background, now all put out there in one concise book, much of it attributed to people whose names are there.
This book isn't as much investigative as it is confirmative. This book says to the American public, everything you've heard is true, I saw it. We have it out of Bannon's mouth, and then enough, anonymous quotes to just put an exclamation point at the end of the sentence. And I think that's what this book really does.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.